Very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Tropical Outlook. It is Sunday the 10th of August and this is how the tropical planet is looking at this moment in time in terms of activity. Two systems in the East Pacific. We've got two invest areas in the Central and East Atlantic. And we've got one lonely system over the West Pacific Basin. Tropical Storm Podal. We've got the Invest 97L and Invest 96L. We've got Tropical Storm Ivo, and we've got the Henrietta, Henrietta, I think it is, east of Hawaii. Now, looking at NHC's latest information as of late Saturday evening, we have got two areas to watch. So the two invest areas, 96 and 97L. 97L has a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days, and we've got this feature over the Central Atlantic with a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. Now, as has been mentioned for some time now, the lid has slightly came off with regards to the Mann-Julian Oscillation entering phase 8 and into 1. However, shear and dry dusty air has been an inhibiting factor with regards to any further developments within the Atlantic Basin. Regarding Dexter, it developed, never became any stronger than a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. It's now heading towards the UK as an extratropical feature. But if you look at the GFS ensemble, over the next few days here and beyond that, it looks as if we get more in the way of subsidence returning back towards the Atlantic Basin here. We've got upward motion over Africa, East Atlantic, but we've got sinking air over the western portion of the Atlantic Basin. In terms of SSTs, they remain somewhat warmer than average, but marginal, especially central in the East Atlantic Basin. Further west, into the Caribbean, Gulf of America, Western Tropical Atlantic, we've got warmer than average conditions overall. This is what was said then back in the forecast that was released at the end of May. In terms of, this is my prediction anyway, named storms 15 to 17, the average being 14.4, hurricanes 6 to 8, the average being 7 to 2, and majors 3 to 5, average being 3.2. Now, Colorado State University's latest prediction is for 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. I think that we are still, it's too premature to start calling the below average card. We're only on the 10th of August. We're approaching the heart of the season, but there's a couple of little nagging factors. Wind shear has been very strong over the Caribbean through the month of June and July. That tends, when you look back at history, that tends to lead to a below average season. The problem is, and this is what Phil Klossbach has been alluding to, is the relatively warm Atlantic and the absence of El Nino favours slightly above average in terms of activity. But there is quite a lot of confliction in terms of the overall outcome. In terms of the next couple of weeks or so, this is the ECMWF probability of tropical storm development. We've obviously got this increased chance over the central portion of the tropical Atlantic, but nothing exceptional. We have a little bit of activity raised over Japan and north of the Philippines and east of Taiwan. We've got a little area just hugging the northeast coast of India. This is obviously Monday 11th through Monday the 18th of August. We increase that chance of the possibility of some sort of development, whether it be the feature 96L over the Central Atlantic or 97L over the East Atlantic. There is an increased chance that these features try and get further west into a less sheared and less dusty environment, and therefore the possibility of some sort of development over the western portion of the Atlantic. We've got a slight increased chance over the East Pacific and a little bit over both the North Indian Ocean and the West Pacific. But the tropics aren't coming alive significantly. And if we play through the GFS ensemble in terms of upward motion, you can see here that the model is indicating more in the way of suppression as opposed to rising motion. MJO actually goes back through the Indian Ocean towards the maritime continent. If we play back through this, you can see that here. Look at the greens now starting to re-establish over the Indian Ocean and the maritime continent as we head towards Tuesday, 19th of August. So, in other words, suppression over the Atlantic, upward motion over the Indian Ocean maritime continent here. That is not a particularly great favourability for the Atlantic basin. One of the aspects that you would think would favour increased activity within the Atlantic would be the Nino region 3.4 cooling taking place. We're back over half a degree below average in terms of water temperatures within this region of the tropical Atlantic or Pacific. We went from near average to 0.6 below average at the end of July. We've increased that temperature slightly, but still 0.4 of a degree below average as of the 9th, 10th of August, which is could increase lower shear over the Atlantic basin further down the road here. But it's certainly an interesting one when you factor all things here. Looking in terms of dry versus moist air, you can see here off the GFS model, we've got a lot of dry air coming off the African continent at the moment. We do have increased moisture over the equatorial African region. The African easterly wave train is becoming a little bit more robust. We're seeing more and better established waves now starting to come off the African continent. But it's whether it can, these waves that come off the African continent, whether they can start to moisten this main development region or not is going to be quite important. Now you can see here there is a lobe of dry air getting drawn around the eastern flank of the mid-Atlantic ridge down into the tropical belt as this reasonably potent feature as of Tuesday this upcoming week comes off the African continent. Now this is the feature that has a greater chance of development, but you notice the dry air to the west of this feature. Now as this feature moves eastwards, it is increasing intensity. It's bundling, it's becoming a little bit more of a closed feature. Shear is going to be one thing, dry air is going to be another thing, but if it can become vertically stacked from surface to upper levels, we increase the more reduced wind, directional shear in terms of wind speed and direction with height, then this may hold together. Now, the GFS is indicating that it holds its own, despite the fact that it's got dry air ahead of it and to the back side of it. The actual system, according to GFS, increases in intensity to the north of the islands, then starts to take more of a northward turn. And this is obviously one operational run. You do not take this as gospel by any stretch, but it has a 947 millibar hurricane to the southeast of the United States by the time we reach Wednesday the 20th of August. That is one model run. One thing I want to show you, though, and make mention of is you notice the lack of anything out with this one feature that's been pointed out by the GFS. That's an interesting aspect. It's not showing 1, 2, 3 different features. It's showing this one lonely system that becomes a major hurricane. There's nothing else apart from that. Let's then look at the ECMWF model, see what it's indicating. We'll look at the same relative humidity and also the 7 to 300 HPA winds and knots, and play back through this loop and see what the ECM model is indicating here. So obviously we looked at the GFS there. There's that feature coming off Africa. We've got a ton of dry air to the north of the feature, also to the west out ahead of it. And you can see here that it too is somewhat holding its own, not quite as aggressive as the GFS model. This is only going out 144 hours to 6Z Friday, 15th of August, which is unfortunate. But it too, albeit it's not strengthening as much as the GFS. You can see here that it is trying to hold its own, trying to fight against this, almost sea of dusty, dry air. Let's have a look at other models then. Let's look at the ECM AI model here and see if it's indicating anything of interest back to the current period. And this is basically millibars, mean sea level pressure in millibars in the 10 meter wind speed. So it's a different viewpoint, but you can see here again, it's indicating that the model is showing this feature, albeit it's not deepening as such, albeit it's actually trying to establish once it gets north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, if you notice here. But interestingly enough, the AI model, as opposed to the ECMWF operational and the GFS operational, it's indicating that it tries to develop north of the islands, but there's two other features that follow it, according to the AI model here. Continue to play through. It's interesting how it's deepening it in the same region the GFS is at 956 millibars. This too would be at least a hurricane, if not a major hurricane. Continue to play through. It's making that turn just off the east coast of the US. We've also got two other areas of low pressure, a feature that follows a very similar path to this one. North of the islands, it tries to develop in this region here, east of Florida, north of Hispaniola. So this seems to be a sweet spot here for less shear, less dry air, and a more conducive environment for development here. So it's one of these kind of wait and see type of scenarios, and that has been the case really throughout much of this season so far. We'll leave it at that. It certainly will be interesting to continue to watch this season as we head towards the climatological heart of the hurricane season. Thanks for watching. Join me tomorrow for the European Outlook, and if you haven't already done so, watch back the live stream that was last night. It was a good one as always. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Bye for now.